Well, guys, the new year is finally here, and with it, likely all sorts of thoughts about what you'd like to accomplish in the coming months and how you're going to get your life and your health back on track this year. And while you might have some big goals and resolutions in mind, the reality is that aspirations without an actual plan aren't going to get you very far. You need to know how you're going to take action because that's ultimately what's going to get your head in the right place. And that's why in today's episode, in honor of the new year, we're talking about the mindset magic of making a plan for your health, as well as some simple steps you can take right now to get yourself ready to take action, whatever your goals may be. Welcome to the Feel Better, Live Free podcast brought to you by Thinlicious. I'm your host, Ruth Sukup, and here we'll talk about everything from the science of weight loss to practical tips for making your health a priority in the midst of a busy life. It's a little bit nerdy, a little bit funny, and a little bit revolutionary. So buckle up, friend, because it's about to get real. Hey there, and welcome back to the Feel Better, Live Free podcast. Once again, my name is Ruth Sukup, and I'm the founder of Thinlicious and the Thin Adapted System, as well as the New York Times bestselling author of 7 books. And if this is your first time listening, then you should probably also know that I am pretty much obsessed with one thing: helping women over 40 create freedom in their lives by transforming your health. I kind of like to think of it as starting a health revolution. And honestly, that's really what this podcast is all about. It's about the freedom to feel your best, the freedom to not be controlled by food addictions ever again, and the freedom to confidently pursue all your big goals and dreams because your health and weight issues are no longer holding you back. And if that gets you excited, then you're probably going to like it around here. We are health rebels, and we are not afraid to question the status quo or to do it a little differently and forge our own path. Because the reality is that losing weight and getting healthy for life is about so much more than just calories and exercise and figuring out what to eat and what not to eat. There's so much more to metabolic science than what most of us have been told our whole lives. But there's also so much mindset work that goes into making healthy changes in your life, right? And honestly, that's probably the hardest part. It's why we often continue to struggle with our weight and our health, even after we start to understand the true science behind healthy weight loss, the impact that our hormones are having, and the impact that insulin resistance is having and leaky gut. Because even when we know the things that we're supposed to be doing, so much of this is tied up with our emotions and our habits and the way that we see ourselves in our relationship with food. And honestly, that's why when I created Thinlicious and TAS, I knew that I needed to create a program that wouldn't just give you a step-by-step process for how to physically heal your body from the inside out just by changing what you eat, but a program that would specifically address this issue, the issue of mindset, right from the very start. Because if you don't get your head in the right place, then no matter how much you know about insulin resistance and how good a certain program is for your health, you'll still never be successful. It's just too hard to keep going, right? You have to get that headpiece in place. And so while in last week's episode, we talked about some specific steps that you can take to sort of start fresh and get yourself back on track, the very practical things. Today, I want to sort of continue that conversation and talk about the mindset side of things, and specifically about making a plan for your health, but not just that, how having a plan can actually help you get your head in the right place and how it can basically be magic for your mindset. But before we dive in, one thing I do want to make sure that I mention is that if you are new to this podcast and new to the whole Thinlicious movement, then I have actually put together a really awesome and totally free on-demand training video that's called Healthy, Happy, and Free in 2024. And it's designed to sort of help you map out a personalized plan for improving your health based on the proven metabolic science that we follow in our program. And what it's going to do is really help you understand why everything that you've probably tried up until now hasn't worked when it comes to health and weight loss, and what you can actually do differently to get healthy and lose weight without dieting, without drugs, and without making yourself miserable. And once again, it's totally free. All you have to do to get access to the video is go to thinlicious.com/video. Once again, that's thinlicious.com/video. So definitely go watch that if you haven't already. I know it'll be super helpful. And like I said, it's free, so kind of a no-brainer. But with that out of the way, let's dive into today's topic, starting with why having a plan is so important in the first place. So, why do you need a plan? Well, I think that for a lot of us, especially those who have struggled with our health and our weight for a long time, we sometimes have this idea, even though we've tried and failed so many times, we have this idea that we should just be able to fix it all on our own, right? That we know what to do. So we should just be able to eat healthy and lose weight without having to follow some sort of specific program or plan or something that somebody else gives to us, right? We don't really feel like we need it. We're like, no, and I hear that all the time. I know what I'm supposed to do. I just need to eat less and exercise more, right? And I totally get that. I am a pretty independent person. My husband would call me strong-willed. And the idea that I would need to get help with something it's a kind of an idea that makes me bristle a little bit. I like to be in control. I like to do things my way. I like to figure it out. So I can totally relate if that is how you are feeling. But the cold hard truth is this. If you could have fixed it on your own, you already would have, right? Seriously. And that's maybe a little bit of tough love, but if all it took to get healthy and lose weight was to eat less and exercise more, then none of us would be overweight in the first place, right? We would have figured this out already. That's the old conventional wisdom that has been drilled into our heads for decades, and it is a lie. It is a lie that has been propagated by the giant food industry and by pharmaceutical companies and by a medical system that just makes more money the sicker that we are. It's a lie that's backed up by the USDA and the American Heart Association and all the so-called experts who are paid millions of dollars to keep telling us the same thing, to eat more carbs and less fat and to move more and to count our calories, right? We keep hearing it. And it's a lie that has made us as a society sicker than ever before and fatter than ever before. So if you're feeling frustrated and like you've been lied to, well, then you should be feeling frustrated because you have been lied to. Sorry, tangent. But I think that is why it's so important to have a plan, right? A real plan that is not based on any of that old conventional wisdom, but is instead based on the truth. A plan that is based on understanding the science of what's really happening in your body. A plan that is based on real data. So that's the first reason why I think having a plan is so important, because you need something that works and that will actually set you up for success. You need a plan that is sustainable and something that you can stick with for the long term, because honestly, if you're just going on a diet, a temporary fix, then as soon as you go back to the way that you were eating before, you'll end up right back where you started. And that's why the plan that you choose has to be something that is a true lifestyle plan, not just a diet. It has to be something that you can actually see yourself doing for the rest of your life, because honestly, it's likely that you will need to, or at least something very close to it. So that is the first reason why having a plan is so important. You need a plan that actually works for your body and that is sustainable long-term. That's a proven process. But there's another reason too, a big reason. And that's because when you have a plan, it is a lot easier to stay accountable to that plan, right? Because the truth is, the best laid plans in the world aren't going to do you a lick of good if you don't actually follow the plan. And that's sort of where accountability comes in, having something to measure against. And I don't mean accountability like somebody over your shoulders, like telling you what to do, right? I mean, just knowing that you're on track. Because if you're like anything like me and the many, many women that I've worked with in my programs, then you're probably really good at lying to yourself, right? You're good at making excuses. You're good at saying you'll do it tomorrow. You're good at avoiding the scale. You're good at justifying all the little cheats that you allow yourself. You're good at making yourself believe that it's not all that bad, right? We like delude ourselves into thinking, and I know this because that's exactly what I did for so long. And when you don't have a plan, or if your plan is just some sort of vague idea of eating healthier without any real structure, then it's way too easy to keep on doing what you have always done. It is way too easy to keep making the same mistakes and the same bad choices because there's nothing in place to keep you on track. And that's why having a plan with some built-in accountability is so important. Having actual numbers and metrics to track and clear guidelines for what those numbers should be actually does make a big difference. It lets you know that you're making progress. But it also gives you cold, hard facts rather than just feelings. And honestly, it shouldn't just be one number because one number isn't going to tell you the whole story. And I actually did a whole podcast episode on this, all about the importance of tracking and measuring your progress in a number of different ways. So if you want to hear my recommendations for that, you can actually go back and listen. It's called, I think, something like The Power of Tracking Your Macros or something like that. But just for now, know that having clear metrics to keep track of on your health and weight loss journey is actually a really important part of the journey and of keeping you accountable. Because it's a lot easier to justify it in your head or to say it's not that bad when you don't actually know the numbers, right? Then we can just think whatever we want. But when you actually see the numbers that are having an impact, your macro breakdown, your glucose reading, your body measurements, the number on the scale, right? When you know what those numbers should be, what they were, and where they're going, it's a lot more motivating and it's a lot harder to make excuses. And that's why having a plan that kind of includes that built-in accountability is so important. But then there's a third reason why having a plan is so important. And I think it's a little bit more intangible, but it's probably the most important one of all. And that's just the fact that when you have a plan, it gives you something to focus on, right? It gives you a goal, a clear goal to work towards. And it gives you a reason to keep going even when it gets hard. It gives you this sense of purpose. And for a lot of us, that's sort of what's been missing, because when you don't have a real plan, then you're just kind of going through the motions every day. And it's easy to get off track. It's easy to get derailed. It's easy to let life get in the way, and it's easy to give up. But when you actually have something tangible that you're working towards, it changes everything. Suddenly, every choice that you're making becomes important, right? You have a reason to say no to that donut or to that sugary margarita or that Chick-fil-A drive-through on your way home from work. You have a reason to get up and go for a walk. You have a reason to start to change your habits. And that's why having a plan is so important, because a plan really is just sort of a way to set some goals and to create a roadmap for achieving those goals. And that's what will keep you motivated and on track. So those are the three big reasons why I think having a plan is so important. You need a plan that actually works and that you can stick with long term. You need a plan that includes some built-in accountability. And you also need a plan to have something to focus on and work towards. And honestly, as I've started to think about it, I can't even imagine what it would be like to not have a plan, because I've seen the power of having a plan, a really good plan, change my life, right? It's changed it so significantly, and it's changed the lives of so many women in our program in such a big way too. And that's why I think that if you are just starting out on this journey, or if you're thinking about getting started, then the absolute best thing that you can do is commit to finding the right plan for you, and then to also make a commitment to actually follow that plan. So the question becomes then, right, how do you actually go about creating a health plan that will work for you and for your life? And the truth is, that's a pretty big question, because there are a lot of factors to consider. You have to figure out what your goals actually are and what you want to achieve. You need to figure out what kind of plan is going to work best for your body and your lifestyle. You have to figure out if you have any underlying health issues that have to be addressed. You have to figure out what kind of support you'll need and what you can actually afford. And all of that can feel a little bit overwhelming, especially if you're brand new to this whole world of health and wellness, and if it all feels a little bit foreign. So I think the first step really is to just do your research. And honestly, that's probably why you're here, right? Listening to this podcast, or maybe why you subscribe to this podcast in the first place, because maybe you know that you need to make a change and you want to know what your options are. And that's a good thing. It's a really good thing to get curious and to start learning more. It's a really good thing to start educating yourself on what is actually available to you and what might be the best fit for you. And if you're just starting out on this journey, then I would say don't get into a big rush, right? I know it's that time of year where everybody starts thinking about it and setting New Year's resolutions, but actually give yourself some time. Give yourself time to listen to different podcasts, to read some different books, to watch some videos, to get a sense of the different programs and plans that are out there, and to start thinking about what might actually be the best fit for you. Because the truth is that while there are a lot of options out there, not all of them will be a good fit for you. And maybe that's partly dependent on what you've already tried before, right? Maybe you have to think about that because we're all unique. At the end of the day, every body is different. Every person is different. And what works for someone else might not work for you and vice versa. And so I think that's really the first step is to get curious and to start doing your research and to start learning as much as you can about the different options that are out there. And then once you've done that, I think the second step is to get honest with yourself about what you are actually willing to do. And this is a big one because the reality is if you choose a program that is not sustainable for you, then you won't be able to sustain it, right? That's why I always say that the best program in the world is the one that you'll actually do. So you have to be honest with yourself about what you are willing to change and what you're not. You have to be honest with yourself about the kind of support that you will need, right? Are you the kind of person that wants to do it all on your own? Or are you the kind of person that wants to ask a lot of questions? And you would need to be honest about the kind of support that is actually available to you. You have to be honest with yourself about what you can actually afford and what you're willing to invest in your health. And I know for some of you, that might be a sticking point, right? You might be thinking, oh yeah, this all sounds great, but I can't actually afford to sign up for a program or to get help or to buy supplements or get the thing, right? Or to do Wegovy or Ozempic or whatever it might be. So can I just address that for a second? Because honestly, I think that if you are in that boat, then you are definitely not alone, especially in a time where the economy feels like it's a little scary, right? Food prices have gone crazy. All sorts of things feel like it's so expensive right now. And a lot of people feel that way, right? Like it's too expensive to get healthy. And honestly, I think it's a big reason why we're often willing to just keep on doing what we've always done because it feels like it's free. But the cold hard truth is that it's not actually free, right? You're paying for it every single day in big ways and small ways. You are paying for your health. You are paying for all the medications that you have to take and the doctor's visits and the medical tests if you're really not healthy. You are paying for the days that you have to take off work because you're too tired to get out of bed. You're paying for the bigger clothes that you have to buy and for all the food that you're wasting because you can't eat it fast enough. You're paying for the impact that your weight and your health is having on your relationships and for all the opportunities that you're missing out on because you don't have the energy or the confidence to do the things that you want to do. Your life is being stolen from you, right? If you're overweight and unhealthy and you don't feel good, it's not free and you're not free. So you have to get honest with yourself and ask yourself, what's actually more expensive? To keep on doing what you've always done or to invest in your health and in a program that can actually help you get healthy and lose weight in a sustainable way. And I am not saying this because of my program, right? Yes, I have a program. Do I think it's an amazing program? Absolutely. But the reality is that my program won't be right for everyone and it might not be right for you. And that's okay. That's not exactly what this podcast is all about. But I do believe that having a plan and having a program and having something to hold you accountable is going to be far better than trying to do it all on your own, right? Because I know I've been there. I've tried that. I've done that. I know how hard it is. Because the truth is that doing it on your own and without a plan probably won't work. You'll just keep on doing what you have always done. And the only way to get different results is to actually do something different. And so then once you have done your research and you've gotten honest with yourself, the third step is really to just commit, to make a decision and to actually get started. Because here's the thing, you can keep on researching and you can keep on learning and you can keep on thinking about it for as long as you want. But if you never actually make a decision, then you'll never actually get started and nothing will ever change. And honestly, that's a huge shame, right? Like that's horrible. So once you've done your research and you've gotten honest with yourself, then I want to just encourage you, okay, start, right? Make a decision and go with it. And maybe that does mean signing up for a program like TAS or finding a different program, or it might mean finding a local doctor who can help you with a more sustainable, not some crazy diet plan, right? Or it might mean finding a health coach, or it might just mean changing the way that you shop and cook and eat and doing more of your own research on how to do it in a way that will actually be good for your health. The path that you choose is ultimately up to you. But I do think that the most important thing is to just choose a path and then actually start walking it, right? That's what you got to do. At some point, you got to stop researching. You got to stop just trying to get all the information, and you actually have to start. And once you've done that, once you have actually made a decision and gotten started, the final and most important step is to just commit to consistency, not perfection. Because the truth is that changing your health and changing your life is actually not a destination, right? There's no magic endpoint. It is a journey. It is hopefully a lifelong journey. It's something that you have to commit to working on every single day. It has to become a priority. It has to become a habit. It has to become part of your normal routine. And honestly, that can feel really hard, especially at the beginning. Changing your health feels overwhelming sometimes because there's so much to learn and so much to do and so much to change. And maybe you feel like you have so far to go. But the key to getting through that overwhelm is to just focus on taking it one day at a time, to focus on forming daily good habits and disciplines that are going to help you stay on track over time. Because the reality is that you will not be perfect, because no one is perfect. Nobody does this perfectly. And so if you set yourself with the expectation that you have to change everything all at once and that you have to do it all perfectly or you're not going to do it at all, if you have this like kind of black and white mentality, then you're setting yourself up for failure. And I say this all the time, but it's worth saying again and again as many times as it takes. Big goals never happen all at once. They are only the result of small steps taken consistently over time. And that means that if you truly, truly want to be successful in reaching your weight loss goals and getting healthy for life, then allow yourself the time to make changes that you can stick to. Don't go crazy trying to drastically cut your calories and start going to the gym and drinking all the water and cutting out alcohol and taking all the supplements and, right? Because that's so often what we do. We try to do it all and we try to do it all at once. And then we set ourselves up for failure with a crash diet that's not even a little bit sustainable, especially this time of year, right? Those New Year's resolutions come and we're just, oh, I'm going to do this and I'm going to do this and I'm going to do this and I'm going to do this. And we last for like, you know what the average is? I think January 18th is where most people last on their New Year's resolutions. So don't do that. Don't crash and burn this January. Let this be the year that you embrace progress over perfection. Let this be the year that you make sustainable changes that you can build upon. Let this be the year that you finally get a handle on this piece of your life. Listening to this podcast is a great start. So keep listening. I have amazing things planned for 2024 for this podcast. You guys, I'm so excited for it and I absolutely can't wait, right? We're going to dive deep into so many topics. Hopefully I'm going to have more episodes for you. I've got so many big plans and so many big dreams for this podcast. That's my goal for this year. And I'm excited about it. And I hope that you are too, because my goal ultimately is to start a health revolution. I have seen in my own life how changing and transforming my health has changed everything, right? It's changed everything for me. And even though probably just like you, right? The holidays is a hard time. It gets a little crazy. Life is busy. It's hard to stay on track. I am so ready. I'm so ready for January. I'm so ready for 2024. And I'm so ready to change the world by helping women transform their health. And I hope that you're excited about that too. So keep listening to the podcast. And if you haven't already, go watch that video that I mentioned at the beginning, right? That happy, healthy, and free in 2024, if I can say it. Happy, healthy, and free in 2024. Guys, it's really good. And it will help you actually map out your own personalized health plan for the next 12 months. You get a workbook, you can fill it in. It will help you fill in your plan. And you'll find that once again at thinlicious.com/video. All right, so go do that. Then join the Facebook group if you haven't done that so we can have a discussion about this. And then I will see you back here very soon for another new episode. Happy New Year.